folks.
Now you need to go back out.
Go ahead.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, Ryan.
How's it going?
All right. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. So we thought we could start today by just doing a debrief of the OCP Regional Summit in Lisbon. Rob Coyle did a great job organizing a wonderful event. There's a lot of energy. He did it by himself, which is really impressive.
It was a lot of work, but I do what I can.
And it was a great opportunity for this work stream in particular. So I have, let me just quickly present what I've got. So we had a couple of opportunities at the summit to work on and publicize this joint project between the iMasons and OCP around carbon disclosure. First of all, OCP treated the summit as an opportunity to announce this collaboration and this work. Yes, it hadn't exactly been a complete secret up until now, but it was a nice opportunity with press there to do a more public and full-throated announcement. So we got an announcement of this collaboration and a highlight from the main stage from the president of OCP during the opening keynote. And then importantly, we had an opportunity to do a panel that is the project co-leads to announce kind of in more detail and discuss the context of why we're embarking in this and kind of what it means to each of the member companies, which again are Google, Microsoft, Schneider, and Meta. So there's a lot of interest kind of given, especially Google, Meta, and Microsoft. They're all coming together to work on this, to help lead this project. It automatically raises interest among the audience. And so it was a good opportunity to talk to folks about what this means for us. And for Schneider's standpoint, we got to talk about kind of what we need in terms as a supplier, just in terms of having guidance around the how and what in terms of what we disclose when it comes to embodied carbon for the products that we're selling. And then Ryan and Kelly and Lalit in absentia got to talk about kind of how that will help their respective companies to achieve their overall net zero goals by addressing scope 3. So the next important piece of what we did is we hosted a day-long sustainability track. We had presentations around a wide variety of data center and digital infrastructure sustainability topics. But one of the big through lines for the whole day was the difficulty of measuring and reducing scope 3 and embodied carbon in particular. So it's clear that there's wide interest in this topic throughout the industry. And then while we were together, or some portion of us were together in Lisbon, we had a workshop, which we held at the conference for this work group in particular, the OCP iMasons collaboration on carbon disclosure. And since we were in the room together, we kind of had the opportunity to take a step back and think about, okay, what is our overall goal? Let's reassess the mission that we set out when we launched this project. And we came to agreement in the room that what we're trying to do is to recruit more suppliers to take part in measuring and reporting on the embodied carbon of the products that they are selling into the data center industry. And to do that, we want to make it as uniform and as easy as possible. So we kind of reasserted our commitment and interest in creating some sort of disclosure form that could be uniform data center operator to data center operator. So from a supplier standpoint, the process could be easier to embark, and you don't have to answer a different set of questions depending on who you're doing business with. And we have as our end goal, or one of our end goals on the calendar, the OCP Summit in San Jose that's coming up in October. So I want to make sure that we're ready in October to release some deliverables that move the ball forward in a significant way. And so the first of those is going to be this disclosure form. And we've started to work on that now. We want to have a first draft ready of that form by the end of June so that we can circulate it sort of within those working on this project, the companies working on this project, our friends and associates, in time to be able to gather some feedback and have a final draft ready to release in October. And we talked about accompanying that form with a sort of white paper that describes why we are investing in this project, how we feel it will advance the industry's ability to measure and reduce scope 3, and where we go from here. We also talked about a second area of the work that we're doing, which is an analysis of the other efforts underway in other organizations around the same or similar topics to make sure that we are collaborating with those other efforts, bringing them in on what we're doing, and that at the end of the day, that what we're all doing is additive with each other rather than redundant. So any questions, or importantly, any thing to add from the other project co-leads or anyone else who was in Lisbon about what we did, what we talked about, what we accomplished?
No, Alex, I think it was pretty thorough overview. I think I would just add that this very initial draft that we want to circulate by the end of June, it's not intended to be the final format. It's more of an initial questionnaire to help us, really do more of a data gathering exercise, and just get some early feedback to make sure we're going in the right direction.
So we mentioned two of the three kind of sub projects we have here. The first is this disclosure form. Let's define the fields. What are we going to be asking of suppliers when they're submitting their embodied carbon number? The second is this survey of parallel activities, because we know this is a hot topic both in the private sector and in government right now. And then the third is comparability. And that was another big topic of conversation in the room for this workshop in Lisbon. There's concern around the fact that comparability limits the usefulness of embodied carbon data, one vendor to another, one solution to another. But thankfully, I also think that there is agreement or consensus within our group that it's still worth generating as much data as we can, gathering as much embodied carbon data as we can, and that will actually help us to attack the comparability problem. We know that a TM65 embodied carbon number is not necessarily comparable to an embodied carbon number that was arrived at via life cycle analysis in an EPD. We know that one EPD is not necessarily comparable to that another separate company has developed. These do limit how we can use this data. So it's not like once we get all of our vendors, all of our suppliers to participate, we're all of a sudden going to have a perfect data set that we can import into a digital twin and then start to hone the design of a data center with one-to-one comparisons. But we're in an urgent situation, both because the planet demands it and because all of our companies have net zero goals that are coming up in 6 years or in 16 years. So we need to start to address this problem today. And this, I think, is going to help us to take that first step. But that said, we want to be clear-eyed about the limitations of what we're doing and about how it sets up those next steps. So I think the white paper that we talked about is going to be a good opportunity for us to make clear kind of what we've accomplished and what we haven't, and where we need to go from here. Andrea?
Yeah, I just also think it's worth keeping in mind that we have this partnership with iMasons as well. And on the iMason side of the fence, there is a lot of work being done on a maturity model that's kind of outlining less about comparing vendor to vendor, but more about seeing what the inventory from a specific vendor is for how many of their products are covered by life cycle assessment or EPDs. And then also making room for carbon reductions from that particular vendor over time. And perhaps some of our guidance can, agree with that and lead the usability of this in the same direction.
Totally. Other comments, just based on kind of like the plan that was arrived at? We had kind of already drawn the frame of this before Lisbon, but it was nice to get in the room together and make sure that we had good agreement. Any other comments from the group? So Ryan, you've been hard at work as a volunteer over the past couple of weeks, working on deliverables in those first two categories, on the form, and then on the survey of other activities. Anything you want to say about that work and kind of where we stand?
No, I think it's progressing well, and hopefully within the next month we'll be prepared to share it with this smaller group and start getting some feedback. And there's also just a sense of crowdsourcing some of the information for the the survey of what's going on out there. So we'll just need everyone to chip in as we start to build that database up. And then on the form, I think it'll be really helpful to understand who is willing to sort of chip in and provide us some feedback once it's ready to start circulating. The more feedback we get early on to make sure we're going in the right direction, the more likely we'll have something by October that will be received well by the broader community.
Yeah, so if you are a vendor, and I see Eric out there from Intel, I see Melissa from HPE, if you want to test drive this form, that would be great. Robert, HPE as well. The more we can, what Andrea and I had talked about doing for Schneider is, instead of us filling it out ourselves, since we're already familiar with it and involved with it, is to pass it to one of our colleagues who hasn't seen it yet and say, hey, fill out this form for a particular piece of Schneider gear. And that way they can sort of have fresh eyes and think about, okay, how does this actually work in real life? And so I think the action for everyone to take at this point is to get involved in these sub efforts. So if you're interested in helping to define that form, I guess what is the best thing to do? Is to use the IO or to reach out directly to you, Ryan?
Yeah, either one, whichever you prefer. You can contact me directly at my work email, or just reach out to the group, and we'll make sure to plug you in, and we will take the help however we can get it. So yeah, just reach out and we'll make sure to get you involved.
And Lalit from Microsoft is working on the comparability issue. So kind of framing what we're doing in terms of how we're going to advance comparability. And then who's leading, I kind of lost track, who's leading the survey of the other? Because you're doing both of those right now, Ryan, but do we have an official lead for the other activities?
Well, I think ultimately Lalit's going to have the lead on the disclosure format.
Yes.
Um,
I think
So I
Andrea
think-
was, Andrea is leading the comparability, and I'll be working on designing the disclosure. But yes, designing disclosure will be mostly capturing what all information need to be provided along with the key data that goes in the survey or the questionnaire that we are designing. So yes, I think that will be designed. We have already started working on that. And but yes, once the form or the survey document is finalized, I think that will be the key document around which we'll create this design disclosure document.
Yeah, Shruti.
Hi, sorry, I did miss the first few minutes, so let me know if you've already sent the link of the form, or then I can directly look in that. I just wanted to clarify, the form is essentially having probable fields that you want folks to sort of test for their own supplied devices.
Yeah, so the form is what we would ask suppliers to fill out along with, for instance, an RFP response. They are proposing these 4 pieces of equipment. They'd fill out the form for those 4 pieces of equipment. And what it would ask, and obviously we need to figure out the details here, but in broad strokes, provide an embodied carbon number for that piece of equipment, then discuss or provide information on how you arrived at that number. What method did you use? If you used an LCA EPD method, what database did you work with? What third party did you work with? Is it third party verified? And then we're sort of debating about other variables that we could include, like lifespan of the piece of equipment. how close are you to product refresh, things like that.
So these sound like all the disclosure fields, right? The fields that would sit in the entire disclosure format.
I'm not sure I understand the question. These are all things that we want the vendor to disclose.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm asking. This sounds like first draft form, or essentially all the fields that would be in the disclosure.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Okay.
And it's not a detailed ask that we are having, Shruti. It's mostly like what the part is, what the part type is, and what the MPN is for that, and then what's the carbon emission number. Those are the key fields that we are asking. And then they can attach if they have any document, or they can create document based on the design disclosure that we will have. And then they can attach it along with that, or they can provide. But this form will mostly capture the field around the product for which they are disclosing the carbon emission.
So it will capture things like maybe which industry database was used in coming up with the carbon number, etc. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
If you used a PCR, identify that PCR.
Mhm.
So one of the things that we were meeting about this earlier this morning, and one of the things that Lalit suggested is that perhaps we have it be a branching. So if you answer that your method was LCA EPD, then there's a set of questions that brings you to that maybe wouldn't apply if you just used economic input output or something like that. So this has been a rather short update. I think the message is that we're working sort of in between these big calls on those subgroups, and in particular on this form right now, which we want to release more broadly at the end of June, in preparation for an even broader release in October. So hoping to get involved, hoping that you guys will help get that work done by getting involved in those subgroups.
Hi, Melissa here. Quick question. Definitely, at least I from HPE am very willing to take a look at this, but Ryan, what's your email address? How do I find it? Is it just
It's rcornwell@google.com, and it
perfect?
should be if you join the groups.io page for or the group
Is
for
it on there?
yeah, there's a directory and it should have everyone's work
Okay.
email. I'm still learning groups.io myself, but you should be able to see everyone that has joined that group. There's a directory which has all the emails, but
Okay.
I'll put my email in the chat group here so you can just
Yeah.
contact me directly.
And then I will add the groups.io address as well. So that URL is the web page for our IO group. And then within that, there is an email that you can use to sign up.
And the directory of all the members.
Anything else for this rather short meeting today?
I'll add just two kind of general things. One, I just dropped a link to the sustainability page on the Open Compute website, which overviews the sub projects, and then the email address is there for Alex and Eric. So if you need connected to anybody, maybe you see another area, another sub project within sustainability, you're like, oh, what's going on there? Use those email addresses, and then the general groups.io mailing list. So there is the sub-project and Workstream mailing list, but there's also a general mailing list too, and those are separate. So if you're subscribed to one of them, you may not be getting all the information from the other ones. So just check on that. And then to reiterate Alex's earlier point, looking forward to the feedback, and the work is happening within the work streams. So this call is typically just an update. We're really just kind of letting the rubber hit the road at this point. So come June timeframe, please get involved in the work streams. That's where the action is happening. That's where, if you have thoughts and input, that's the best place to make that happen on a more regular cadence. To come here and make that happen, it's a good opportunity to get an update in the generalities, and happy to take that input here, but really those work streams is where the effort is.
Yeah, that said, we do want this call to have value as well. And I think the June call in particular will have a lot to discuss. So I think the idea is for us to get some deliverables ready to show in the June call to whoever wants to join. And then we can use that to generate some discussion. So although this was a rather short call, I think the next call will be quite full.
Yeah, don't let my my encouragement of the work streams encourage you to skip
Yeah.
this call. Don't skip this call.
Yeah, because it's nice having the big group together because we can just make sure that we're getting everybody's voice and everybody can hear from each other in one place. Cool. Anything else from anyone?
Hey, Alex, very quick thing. Oh, sorry. I see Ryan's hand was up. You want to go first?
Yeah, just a general question. Does OCP have a formal process for collecting feedback from members? For
Not
example,
at the
go ahead.
not at the high level that it's work stream by work stream or project by
Okay.
project. We don't have a formalized process across everything.
Okay, got it.
Shruti?
Yeah, I was just quickly going to ask Alex, are all the outcomes and sort of, what we decided at the in-person, workshop, well, in-person and hybrid workshop at the summit, at the regional summit, is that documented somewhere?
That's a good question, Shruti, and I should really post it to IO. So I will take that action and make sure that that's done this week. I'm just seeing if there's a good place for it on that webpage. But I'll figure it out and I'll send out to the IO group the link. Yeah, here's a files link. So I'll add the notes there to our meeting notes folder and send out the link so that everybody can take a look.
Thank you, Alex.
Yep.
Oh, and I'll see. I in the chat here. Thank you for the reminder. Call for papers for Global Summit is open. So that's future technologies. That's also the engineering workshops. If you have work within the work streams or you have other work you want to be considered for engineering work streams, the link is there. Please submit your abstracts.
Ryan, did you have something else?
Yeah, so I was just looking ahead into June. The next monthly meeting we have falls on Juneteenth, which is a U.S. corporate holiday. Could I recommend that we push that to the following Wednesday, which is the last Wednesday of June? And I feel confident that by that date, we will be ready to share both the database we've created as well as the initial draft of this form.
Yeah, good catch and good suggestion. Anyone have an objection to that?
Great call.
Shruti, this is your invitation. Would you mind shifting it 1 week for us?
I
for
will,
the-
I got that. I'll move it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
There is a data center metrics meeting at the same time through OCP, but I don't know if there's any overlap on this group.
That
We
is
might just have to.
I think DC facility, project.
So it'll be fine.
Yeah, I don't know if folks feel that a lot of folks are finding that as a conflict. Maybe we can pick something else. But otherwise, this will be a one-time conflict.
Yeah, I think it'll be okay for one time. All right. Thanks again, group. Thanks for the momentum we have. Look forward to the June meeting. We'll have lots to discuss.
Thank you. Bye.
Excellent.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank you.